speaker?
It's ready. It's recording already.
Thank you. Good morning or afternoon, depending where you are at the moment. Morning here from the UK, afternoon in Germany, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Igor Kazan, Principal Investigator at the University of Oxford for Replicate EU project, and I'm the work package leader of Replicate 8 Replication. Welcome, I'm pleased to have you on board today in the second session of the City-to-CityLearning Programme, led by the fellow city Essen in the metropolitan area of Ruhr in Germany. Just a brief reminder, the City-to-CityLearning Programme is the main replication activity of the EU Replicate project that you can contribute to, follow and participate through its main hashtag, which is the City-to-CityLearning, and also Replicate EU. In a nutshell, the program kicked off on February the 5th, led by the project leader and the lighthouse city of San Sebastián, with the following title. We started with the excellence of service provision based on data monitoring and smart management. In this session, three interventions took place, were presented by Leikolan on a street light system, by EuroHelp firm on Link Open Data Cloud. The third presentation was by Ikusi firm on mobility platform. If you missed the presentations, here you have the link in the chat, and you have also the video in replicate-project.eu/city-to-city-learning. Let me tell you that the main conclusion of the session was the degree to which this smart service provision must be integrated within each other in order to deliver a positive impact on citizens. And in this sense, in this direction, San Sebastián is working hard in breaking the silos to elaborate further transversal and cross-cutting smart initiatives in the city. So furthermore, San Sebastián is holding an event next week that is called European Smart Project Summit. And they are going to be very interesting topics because the sessions they are going to revolve around the funding scalability, sustainable smart building. We are going to talk about that, for instance, data governance for citizen services, energy transitions, urban mobility models, and citizens on the core of city transformation. Before advancing further, I think it's worth giving a rationale behind the City-to-CityLearning Programme as replication strategy. Since the beginning, into 2016, we've been preparing the City-to-CityLearning Programme in collaboration with the three lighthouse cities, San Sebastián, Bristol, and Florence, alongside the three fellow cities, Essen, Lausanne, and Nilüfer, and their unique related multi-stakeholder framework. During this time, the Lighthouse projects have been intensively focused and working on their implementation, on the pilots, in the three main sectors, in energy, mobility, and ICT. And alongside these implementations, we've been carrying out fieldwork research in the three fellow cities, organizing workshops to identify the critical factors and the unique composition of stakeholders. Now, it is time to start matching how a diverse set of urban implementations could be adapted and scaled up by considering the composition of stakeholders in each fellow city. As a result, the fellow cities, will formulate at the end of the project their replication plans. This program has been designed entirely to assist both the fellow cities and lighthouse cities to find a common ground to further include in the replication plans of the fellow cities. So this program will last during the whole year 2019, and it continues today with one of the fellow cities, Essen, in Germany. From the practical perspective, City-to-CityLearning Programme is designed to be a private program among Replicate stakeholders. It is why you all are Replicate stakeholders on the other side. Nevertheless, it will be entirely and publicly accessible and will be disseminated just after the webinar session today So in order to ensure interactive discussion, please use the hashtag. A practical note, after each slot, I'm going to open the floor for a Q&A, and I would be grateful if you could introduce yourself, your city, and also the organization that you represent. So before moving on, I must start and I must ask, why are we putting forward application strategy through this City-to-City Learning Programme? And particularly given that Essen is the European Green Capital, in addition to its position as a fellow follower city in Replicate, we have a remarkable starting point today. The question of how dedicated innovation hubs or hotspots accelerate the smart and sustainable transition in Essen. So I would like to kick off this session with a general reflection and reflecting upon the following question. Could we understand the smart strategy without unsustainable transition, or vice versa? Even given the influence of the SDGs worldwide, the Sustainable Development Goals. Are the smartness and sustainability complementary or are contradictory urban visions? We can say that according to Aveniemi, the initial target of smart cities defined as attaining sustainability of a city with help of modern technology is not sufficiently addressed in some of the smart city frameworks. While environmental sustainability is an essential target of the smart cities in the European Commissions and the United Nations, environmental indicators are clearly underrepresented in the smart city frameworks. So considering the ambitious European and global energy and greenhouse emission mitigation targets, decreasing energy should be an important goal for smart city. Surprisingly though, it seems that the use of energy-related indicators is rather limited in the smart city policy frameworks when compared to urban sustainability assessment. So, and in the contours of this webinar today, I think it's worth suggesting that environmental and energy-related aspects might not be considered to a sufficient extent in the smart city framework, and is why we must leverage these transitions at the district level through entrepreneurial intervention, and is why the uniqueness of Essen, to some extent, is due to the fact that the coal heartland could become new smelters. When we say we are new smelters, we understood them as innovation hotspots or innovation hubs, of the three cases that are going to be presented, like Camp Essen, Impact Hub Ruhr, and Essen 51. Just before opening the floor to Kai Lipsius, the city representative of Essen, let me just give you some description about Essen. We said that it's a coal and steel metropolis, has been a coal and steel metropolis, and right now has been awarded European Green Capital 2017. The city is located in North Rhine-Westphalia, in the Ruhr metropolitan area, and is an independent city in the administrative district of Düsseldorf, which accounts for 582 inhabitants, and is the 9th largest city in Germany. But the most remarkable point about this is that the metropolitan area encompasses approximately 5 million people and is the 3rd largest agglomeration, urban agglomeration, metropolitan agglomeration in Europe, which means that, for instance, the industrial center is a very important industrial center for German enterprises, as we are going to see in the 3 presentations. And this sound mix of big firms, SMEs, and active craft sector helps to obtain a good economic climate. In this sense, there is a very comprehensive relationship of the European Green Capital 2017 project, with Essen goals to establish a smart city strategy for replicate projects. And finally, just one point about the district level, the restoration of the craft belt as an urban space for living the economy and the culture is one of the most important urban development projects already underway in Essen. The district is well situated to become, even in the direction of this replication plan, to become a focal point of the Replicate project in Essen. So ultimately, to conclude, in this renowned ecosystem, where on the one hand we have sustainability strategies through the European Green Capital policies, and on the other hand, smart city strategies to Replicate EU project, they both blend, mainly through three elements: entrepreneurial ecosystems, a clear interdependence between stakeholders, and innovation hubs and hotspots at the district level. Today we have three speakers, and they're on the other side in Germany at the moment, waiting for their time to start. And I would like to kindly welcome Kai Lipsius, that is the representative. Hello, Kai.
Hi, everyone. Welcome also from the city of Essen. Igor, thank you very much for the chance to also present the case of Essen within the City-to-City Learning Programme. And you already mentioned a couple of key figures about Essen. So that gives me the opportunity to also cut a little bit on the time spent on this slide that you hopefully see. And generally come to the last bullet point, that it's really our story is really about this big transformation processes. There we were a very rural area in the end of of the 19th century. Then we're really industrialized and urbanized, and now we have like the second transformation after the ending of the coal mining to now become something else and develop and transform the city into a smart and sustainable city. And as you already mentioned, on the left-hand side, you can see the targets that were set during the campaign for European Green Capital. And we have a couple of targets that are also very relevant for smart city aspects, but as well for climate mitigation as well. So our climate mitigation target, which is kind of overarching and independent on the other targets, is that we want to become more or less carbon neutral by the mid of the century, which already then leads to the main script about the transition process maybe. And you already mentioned that quite strong companies are Essen-based, big international companies as well. And I collected a couple of examples on the right-hand side. And overall, this actually then is one of the reasons why it's true that we are a strong economic center. But we also have big challenges, not least due to the heritage of the coal and steel age. So our unemployment rate is still quite high, and especially if you look at the number of children that receive social welfare, you see that we have a very, very widespread economical challenges or socio-economical challenges. And also our municipal debt is more than 3 billion euros. So we have also the challenge to work along with strict budget restraints. And how we are still trying to be innovative and take the opportunities for transformation will be presented in 3 cases, as Igor mentioned. And we will start with Camp Essen. I go back 2 slides. So you also have the overview about the facilitation of the startup scene. And then we come to the Impact Hub, which is also a innovation hub. And Ulrike Trenz will talk about also the what Igor mentioned, how the sustainable and smart agenda can be blended. And then we hear the case of the Essen 51 from Norman Saal-Ponor from the Telen Gruppe company. And I will pass on the microphone to Andreas Kaminski now, who is the coordinator of the Camp Essen project.
Thank you very much, Kai. Please, Andreas Kaminski, the floor is yours. You can start whatever you want.
Okay, hi everybody. Kalypsis introduced me already. My name is Andreas Kaminski. I'm the employee of the local Essen Essen Economy Development Corporation, and was delegated 2 years ago to coordinate and to set up our new project, Camp Essen. Before presenting you the idea behind Camp Essen, I'd like to give you a short overview of our innovation scene and our tools and infrastructure to promote innovation and digital business models. First, I'd like to mention the Ruhr Hub, which was an initiative by the state of North Rhine-Westphalia. It's a regional project. 6 cities are stakeholders: Essen, Bochum, Dortmund, Mülheim, Gelsenkirchen, Duisburg, and the state of North Rhine-Westphalia as shareholders. The Ruhr Hub focuses on accelerating existing startups, being a connector between startups and small and medium enterprises and corporates. It's located in Essen, but as I mentioned, it has a regional function. And we have the Gründerallianz Ruhr, which is more or less a consortium of big and regional-based corporates. They try to focus on promotion of data-driven business models. They are connected with lots of the big companies that Kalypsis already mentioned that are located here in the Ruhr area. And they give data into a pool, and startups apply for building up data-driven business models. Then we have colleagues of mine from the Essen Economic Development Corporation, the EWG, a new team that was set up in winter 2018. It's more or less a first-stop agency for local and regional startups in questions of financing, office space, mentorship, and actually they are focusing on giving transparency to this region, because we learned that in the last 2 or 3 years there was a big drive concerning new startups, new initiatives to promote startups, to promote innovation, and things were going a bit wild. And we said it's time to put more transparency to this region, and that's why this team was built up. We have another interesting initiative or institution, that's BAR and BAND, the Business Angels Agentur Ruhr and Business Angels Network Deutschland, 2 initiatives, regional and national-wide, with their headquarters in Essen. And last but not least, the Impact Hub. Ulrike is beside me and will give you some details about the Impact Hub later on. So as you can see, it's a mixture of both local and private and governmental driven approaches, and that's what's so interesting and makes Essen as a city so interesting. So we have a lot of initiatives going on in this last 2 or 3 years, and in my opinion, it's now a very dense landscape of startup and innovation promotion initiatives. They are all focusing on the region's strengths. That's B2B, that's energy. Essen is known as the capital of energy in Germany. It's already almost focusing on medicine and health, and on IT security. And all those initiatives are very intensely supported by the city of Essen. Okay, now let's give you a short impression about Camp Essen. Camp Essen is more or less the local arm of the before mentioned Ruhr Hub. The Ruhr Hub is responsible for the entire region. And the Ministry of Economy in North Rhine-Westphalia said, so you have to have local arms, local camps, as they said, to bring new startups to life and to bring them into the hub to link with the accelerating process that is done there. The camp was initiated as a platform for collaboration and co-innovation, and the slide may give you a first impression about our shareholders. It's a very bright and a very bright and big scene there. We are connected with the corporates, as Kai Lipsius said. That's a specialty of Essen, that we have a lot of big companies and corporates located in Essen, like ThyssenKrupp, like RWE, Innogy, E.ON, Evonik, Open Grid Europe. All those big corporates are partners in the camp. We also have small and medium enterprises as partners. The university, a very important partner for us. Then, of course, the local institutions, the Chamber of Commerce and Chamber of Industry, my Essen Economic Development Corporation, and of course lots of startups that are partners of the camp. And in addition, we collaborate with other digital hubs and co-working spaces. So what are we doing? In the end, we do have a very huge workload on our back, as I always say, because we have different target groups. As you can see on the slide, our objectives are very broad. We should encourage cross-company collaboration between corporates. We should put transparency on local initiatives. We should create an ecosystem for innovation, should facilitate development of startup culture, support small and medium enterprises with their digital transformation challenges, saying that we support those companies on their way into the digital transformation, into their digital change, and try to contribute to improve Essen's attractivity for digital startups. So that's a really huge workload, and our offer is based on, let's say, two legs. On one hand, we offer a co-working space and creative project rooms so that companies can rent those rooms and can work on new digital business models and new digital business ideas on a neutral location, combined with our support. And on the other hand, we try to offer programs, and the most important thing is that we develop those programs in cooperation with our partners. So it's not always programs that we initiate, but we sit together with our partners and say what could be useful, what could help you in making our way into the digital change. To give you a short example, we put on a program called Part-Time Startup. All those startups located in Essen asked us, well, you should be connected with all the big corporates in Essen, and we don't know where to give our offer. Those corporates are big, and we don't know any contact partner there. Dear camp, could you open doors for us? That's what we do. And therefore, we have special programs like a program called Part-Time Startup. We put employees of corporates into startups for 6 weeks and try to give them a new mindset in initiating new ideas, in working agile, and so on. We do have basic workshops for startups. We call them Basics for Business, like branding, like things, how to compete in the market, how to do marketing in the right way, and between that, and that's the most important thing, is that we set up networking events to connect corporates with those startups and with the small and medium enterprises, because we know that corporates are very eager to work with startups, and this is what we concentrate on in building up our programs. Okay, just to give you an example, in 2 weeks we will have a hackathon weekend inside the camp. It's a hackathon weekend with corporates and small and medium enterprises who pitch practical challenges from the energy sector, which we are focusing on. Startups and students that applied to our event will work on practical solutions using the blockchain technology. And our goals in setting up these events are to promote a new technology, to create a certain local buzz for this topic, of course, to connect different target groups, in this case, the big corporates and small and medium enterprises with startups and students, or with, as we always say, owners of ideas. We try to strengthen the local coding and software community. That's networking. And of course, it's also a platform for recruiting, because we know that corporates are eager to not only learn from students and startups, but only they're looking for good and well-trained employees. So that might give you a short impression of our daily work inside the camp. We have just finished one big event that might be interesting for you, because it's more or less an international. It has an international focus. The event is called Beyond Conventions. Was initiated in the camp. The focus is that the corporates, the big corporates, put their internal challenges, make them that the public can see those challenges, and startups apply to look for a digital solution of those problems. And it's a big event. Was held up in February this year. It's the second event in this place, and we will go on with this in the next year. It's located in the headquarters of ThyssenKrupp, and we had applications from all over the world, from New Zealand, Ukraine, Netherlands, and the most interesting thing is that the startups that have the best solution, they won't get a prize, but they will work together with those corporates. So it's really based on reality and not based on money, to give you a short example of one of our offers. So I think maybe I was too fast. So if there are any questions, just go ahead. Let me add one thing. So as you might have seen or have heard, we are not focusing on smart city projects as well, but we always have the link to our focus energy, which is important in our view. So okay.
Thank you, Andreas Kaminski, for your presentation. It was very rich in content, and I think that the last point that you made, that you are not directly focusing on the smart city, I think was one of my perception. But as I at the beginning, as I introduced the case of Essen, I think that the value of Essen is how to connect and how to blend sustainable and smart strategies together. I have just, before opening the floor for questions in the audience, because I can see that there are some broad audience just hearing this conversation, this webinar. Just one, I think that it was very interesting, the point that you made on how agile methodologies are being used by corporates, that they bring their employees to startups. I think it's very interesting way of delivering these kind of strategies. But let me ask you, because you've been talking about how startups has been created in different sectors like finance, business angels, energy, B2B, medicine, health, IT security. But my question is, what about civic society? How civic society directly could get involved in these projects of these initiatives? Is there any space for that?
Yes, there is space for it. We are as an institution, we are open. We are always open for new ideas. We do have citizens of the city that really come to us with, well, let's not say business ideas, but ideas to improve social life, to improve in environment. I wouldn't call them owners of business ideas, but they feel like they would like to contribute to the welfare of the city. So we are open for that. It doesn't happen that often, I'm honest, but we are open for that. Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much. And the last question, just before opening the floor, when you mentioned transparency and that you have created a startup team in the last 2 or 3 years, could you just give some insight? Because it seems that when you mention transparency, you mean that the delicate issue of data governance, or what do you mean with that?
No, transparency in our eyes is in the last 2 or 3 years, a lot of institutions that are promoting startups, that are promoting innovation models, were set up here in Essen and in the region, and a lot of private initiatives, a lot of initiatives driven by the government and by the country, and it's a paradise for startups to start now, because they can ask everything and they will get the right information. But we learned that it's more or less a jungle of offers, of office spaces, of events, and so we said it might be a good idea to collect all these offers and put it together, and that's what the team is set up for, to make the location, the city of Essen as an economic location, more transparent for startups.
I understand. Thank you very much. Any question in the audience for Mr. Kamiński? Please introduce yourself before asking or making any comment. Thanks. It seems that there is no questions for Mr. Kamiński. Well, let's move on to the second speaker. She's Ulrike Trenz from Impact Hub Ruhr, and he's going to talk mainly about how to connect communities for change. So please, the floor is yours.
Hello together. I'm Ulrike Trenz, and yeah, the next slides will be about connecting communities for change, as Impact Hub is really focusing on community building and how the startup scene can help to blend the smart and sustainable agenda of cities. My name is Ulrike Trenz, and I'm Director of Impact Hub Ruhr. My background is in cultural work in management, and I did a lot of projects about sustainable event production, about sustainability in society. What does it mean for your daily and practical life? If you have a sustainable lifestyle, that was, or that this is where I'm coming from. And I'm really interested in structural change topics, sustainable development through social innovation and social entrepreneurship. And today my perspective is clearly a really practical one. Okay. So, but first of all, what is Impact Hub? So we are a global network focused on building entrepreneurial communities. We are purpose-driven and community-driven, and we gather innovators, social entrepreneurs, dreamers, makers, people who come together to certain topics around the topic of sustainability, for example. We are one of the world's biggest global networks of innovators, and we inspire, connect, and enable people who are coming together to create tangible solutions to the world's most pressing issues. So at Impact Hub, we sometimes say we engineer serendipity to enable transformational impact. So people sit together, sit alone, have ideas at home, and then to fulfill these ideas, to create solutions or to bring them on the street, so they meet at Impact Hub. So this is what we call engineering serendipity. Some story and facts and figures. And so we were built 14 years ago. It was like the bank crash, Lehman Brothers. So these are all terms we have in mind. A group of people in London came together to think about new ways of how economic could grow or could be built, could work for us as humans, for us people, and how could profit be also in service for environment and society. So they came together, worked together, co-working started, they had events together, and yeah, so some groups, working groups were starting to work together, and from that point of the network was starting to grow. So now so we are 102 impact hubs. The second was in Rotterdam, for example, and so the network grew from London. And from these 102 impact hubs, we all work together. Now there are more than 20 in the making. That means so impact hubs in process of becoming impact hubs. You go through an onboarding process. You apply. You at least has to be like you have to be 3%. So you cannot open an impact hub by your own. So you apply to the network. It's an association, and the main it's not the venue. It's like the association is based in Vienna. I wanted to say, sorry. And so these 21, for example, they are now in the candidate phase. Then they become a pilot impact hub, and so on and so forth. And in the end, you get recognized by the Impact Hub with a full voting right, because you got, as we as well at Impact Hub Ruhr, you get a full voting right to also create change within the network, for example. We have about 16,000 members and makers. Members means people who work at Impact Hubs in the co-working space, or makers are people like me who build up like the whole thing around, like my team and I, we are makers. And we are spread about around the world, except in Australia. There's no Impact Hub yet. We are a non-profit association, and this association is deciding on topics within the network about projects, which going non-profit, governance topics, network strategy, and we have also the Impact Hub company, and the director, for example, is voted by the members of the association, so it's very democratic based, so there's no one on top who's telling us what to do, so it's really the community who is making decisions together. So what does Impact Hub in general, like as the global one, offer? So as I said before, we are curating a community. So we connect people, we do events for people, and each Impact Hub on the whole world has a workspace, like a creative space. So I would say if you enter in an Impact Hub, you will like it, because we're really special places where you find rooms for concentration work, where you find workspace for workshops, where you find event space. What we also do is we support young teams, people with ideas, people with already a little startup or business idea. So this is like the incubation or pre-incubation phase. Andreas was talking about that as well. So teams who want to set up and become a strong company. What we have there is that we focus on sustainable startups. That means topics on environmental level or social level. And as well, what we do non-profit programs, we do projects and events. So this is what every Impact Hub worldwide is doing. The framework for our work is like if we talk about impact or sustainability, we have all in common that we agree on the Sustainable Development Goals. They were like mentioned in the really beginning of this presentation. So this is what we think about when we talk about sustainability. So it is our impact logic as well, what is based on these topics. And we also see that the 17 goals, for example, climate change or poverty, zero hunger, healthcare, these are like the most pressing issues of our time. And what we also do is to measure our goals and our impact is we have a community impact report. So we are asking each year our community what they're working on, in which fields of the sustainable development goals they're working on, what the progress is. So you can download it on the Impact Hub Global website, for example, and as well we do a maker survey as the team members of Impact Hubs are much more deeper involved in and they have like a view through the topics as well. So there's also like a scaling impact report, which you can also download if you're interested into that. What is also is that the United Nations office in Geneva acknowledge Impact Hub as a driver of community engagement and helping not only to foster, but also to extend their efforts directed to tackle the SDGs via entrepreneurial and innovative solutions. So this is where we get like the credibility from an official side as well. Now to Impact Hub Ruhr and Impact Hub in Essen. Our story is we are three people, all are 35 years old, and we met each other through friends. This is like how we found each other in the end, talking about sustainable topics, talking about the Ruhr region, and we were discussing about the region as itself. You heard in the beginning what are challenges here, but we also see a lot of, or saw and see still a lot of potentials. And so we thought about, as I was working in Impact Hub Zurich in Switzerland before, why not opening such a place in the Ruhr region? And so we just did it. We started an onboarding process, and we founded a company in 2017, and these were like Benedikt Brester, Jana Prager, and Ulrike Me. And the onboarding process took us almost 1 year. Since 2018, we got the full voting rights for the Ruhr area into the world. First, we are the first Impact Hub with a regional license. This is where we're really proud of. So from the really beginning, we had the chance in this democratic-based association to raise the voice and say, hey guys, we don't want to build up Impact Hub Essen or Bochum. we want to have Impact Hub Ruhr, as we think that this region for like building up really impactful innovations, we need to build up a bottom-up community and not like a city-based community. So especially climate change or sustainable topics, they don't stop at city borders. And that was a really, really, moment for us to say, guys, we need to be Impact Hub Ruhr, otherwise people won't believe us. And what's also important, we are 100% financed from private funds, so there's no official investor. It's what we did is like on our bones. And we are like 3 co-founders, 3 directors, and 3 shareholders. And this is what I told you. We are like Benedict, Jenna, and me. Okay. So facts and figures. Till now, 2019, our team grew. Our space is now bigger. It's now 600 square meters from 100 in the beginning. We have 4 paying members who are freelancers, startups, students, entrepreneurs, and we do a lot of events through the year, external for the public, as well curated especially for the community. And our business model, this is an often asked question, is based on programming, room rentals, memberships, and consulting and services. So why did we do that? This is also really nice from the first slide of Kai. That was our story. So we really were convinced that regional rooted and globally connected, we could really tackle a lot of problems for the region. We wanted to be part of a change. We wanted to create also a development within the region with social entrepreneurial mindset and with social innovation solution. So this is where we came from, and where we thought, okay, this is really nice because the potential of so many students and universities, we have a lot of art and culture, and there's really the ability to change something with those potentials. As well, we really focus on collaboration. I give some examples in a few slides, and this is really where we're aiming for. Impact cannot happen in isolation. It requires collective action. We want to work together with Camp Essen. We want to work together with the city of Bochum, with the city of Essen, with different agencies, with different initiatives. We really want to tackle problems by like having cooperations with everyone and then work together. And the community in the space is like the engine which gives a really strong base for that. So we do active community building. We do networking. We have little events during the week, like lunches where people can meet. We really want to initiate more and more cross-sector collaboration. And this starts regional and local, and it ends on national and global level. What we also do is that we accompany co-creation processes and bring in design masters, workshops, and trainings. We ourselves as the team or the community has know-how and knowledge to also bring it to the people who want to develop ideas. And what we also do is offering an environment of learning and failing culture. This is really important, so people meet, they talk about what is going really great and what's not really going great, and they really push themselves into the best solution for them. So it's also like a favorite spot where people meet and talk about how to tackle several issues. Who do we work with? We are a young company, and we almost just started, but on a local and regional level. Of course, we work together with our community, with city authorities, city development agencies, university initiative companies. On national level, we are gathered in CENTV, it means Social Entrepreneurship Network Germany. This is like the scene is really young in Germany, and it was founded last year, but we are also really into exchange with those guys. What we also want to foster now is to have like visibility for German impact hubs in Munich, Berlin, Leipzig, Dresden. There's some more rising at the moment. And as well, if companies are set in different cities, we also work together with them. And globally seen, it's the global network. If they have global programs, we can apply for them and be part of that. And for example, with the city and Kai Lipsius, we work together on a EU-funded program called Climathon. We applied for that, and through the city we got the funding, for example. So we have a nice, a nice slide here. We focus in Essen on the sustainable development goals as well, especially on education, diversity, sustainable businesses, participation in society, and climate action. So these are the goals where we, for 2019, we focus on. And now 3 examples. The Climathon, for example, what we did is an idea marathon on climate protection. We have 24 hours. We have participants like students and employees. They come together and they hang together at the Impact Hub for 24 hours. And we have a program that they come from an idea to a certain challenge. For example, how to get more solar panels on the roofs on Essen houses. So they are there with some coaches, and they come from an idea to a business model, to a project idea, to a little, maybe startup idea. And in the end, we present those ideas. And we did that 2 times. The first time on sustainable mobility, the second time on energy. And 2 teams, for example, are still working on that idea. And what we do is we support these teams. We try to get partners for those guys, and we give them kind of a home. Beyond Divides is another program on global level. We have the Impact Hub Global, which came across with the Robert Bosch Foundation. It's on social divides and social cohesion in neighborhoods. The Impact Hub Istanbul, Bucharest, Madrid is also taking part. And we are, as an Impact Hub, now working together with the district and with a neighborhood in North Essen, and in Bochum with one neighborhood together. And we are kind of a convener. We go in these neighborhoods with other initiatives, working together with initiatives which are already there, to build up bridge projects, to bring together neighbors from the neighborhoods who normally don't do things together. And this is like really to cut a gap which is existing. It's more that we are facilitating a process than only creating results. And this project is already running, and we are talking about the following project with some foundations from the region now. And what we're working on now is as well, we do startup incubation support. That means we give teams who come to us and ask, hey, we need support in this or that issues. We give them access to the network, exchange to our Impact Hub network, to people from, for example, from eco-fashion fields. There are in Brazilian Impact Hubs, there are a lot of people from the eco-fashion sector, so I can connect them together. And what we have also is in cooperation with some consulting companies. They get consulting for finding the strategy. We help them to find the right team if there's someone missing, for example. And we are now working on putting this little dots to a startup incubation support program for sustainable startups, because this is what we think is really more impactful, to have like a running program which is all over the year. And yes, of course, my last slide, we also have challenges. It's still the city border thinking in the region. I just wanted to mention it because we are not from a city. We are private private company. We are a young company. So it's still that sometimes we have to tackle the issues that different cities from the region still do not think really in collaboration mode. And what also is hard for us, as we do structural development programs and processes, or we fire those progresses and we try to let them grow. It's hard to get the right official public funding sometimes. You have to get through really complex administrative structures, especially as we are not only you cannot put us in one dot and one spot for what I want to say. We're not only sustainable, we're not only social, we're not only innovative, we're something more complex, and this is for us really a challenge. And of course, as we want now to set up this structural funded long-term sustainable startup program to find like the right partners, still we need to network a lot, and we are 3 people or 4 now, and this is a really challenge for us as well, as we're limited in resources. So thank you. Questions?
Thank you, Ulrike Trentz, for your presentation. I think in the broad domain of Replicate, I think it's worth hearing a presentation on social innovation from Essen. I think that has been missing for many, many times, so I think it's welcome here, this kind of presentation. And just to underline before I'm going to open the floor for discussion, I think that you mentioned some projects on local impact. Maybe if you can give some much more insights about how your projects are making some positive impact in Essen, that would be grateful. The second question, I think that you anticipated at the end when you said, well, we are not part exactly of one. We are not just located in one sector, and the difficulties of being cross-sectoral and the problem of social innovation, that you cannot be exactly in one department. So my question was about the institutional barriers that you are finding in your way. And the third question is much broader to the rest of the 5 Replicate cities, because our interest in Replicate is what could be replicated or adapted or scale up in other districts. And I don't know if you know that, but San Sebastián, for instance, they have a hub like you. Yes. So do you know them, or?
Yeah, I know that almost all cities from your program have an impact hub in their city.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So any question?
Yeah, the first one. So the impact of what we do change. I guess the teams which arise out of the programs. Was it in that direction? Yeah, impact in Essen. Yeah, for example, first of all, we are a young company, so we are not having like 5 years to look back as we found it in 2017. But the team from the Climathon, for example, in 2018, which is working on solar energy. They are running through the city. They had presentations in front of big companies, of the energy companies like Energy. They work together with Kai. They go around, they present their project, and now they try to find their right business model, to find right partners, to set up a pilot. So if that works out, so they can make it possible that more citizens in Essen get more solar panels on their roofs. So this would be one direction they can go. And in 2 years, I can hopefully say they had helped 200 citizens to build up solar panels on their roofs, or tenants to have solar energy in their homes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much.
And the second was regarding the barriers we have as working on complex issues. Was it in that direction?
Yes.
What was the question? Right. Can you?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you mentioned from the public sector. I mean, that sometimes it's difficult that, for example, with the case of the funding, how to get funding, for activities. But I'm talking about this kind of hubs. Sometimes they have difficulties, not just to getting fund, but also how to serve, how to network, how to be perceived by others. You mentioned that you have good relationship with private sector. I hope that is just you can extend this perception to the broad private sector. But I mean, how are the barriers of moving around the ecosystem of private companies, public sector, even we didn't talk about that, but collaborating with universities sometimes it's easy, but sometimes it's quite difficult. I'm talking from the university myself, from Oxford, so I can see that from the other side as well. So how can you deal with these kind of issues?
Yeah, I guess it's like the entrepreneurial mindset we give into that thing, and yeah, it's tough, of course, but also we need to have some more credibility. We are some like 3 young people in Essen, and we came up with, hey, let's change the world, and sometimes that is really tough for some people to understand. Yeah, I would be also skeptical if someone comes to me and tells me, hey, I want to change some and the development, I want to be part of the development of the city. But we build up trust now. So I think sometimes it has to grow organical, relations between people have to grow. So yeah, we have to deal with that. It's normal business relations as personal relations. That takes some time. And we're really open and transparent. We talk about also what is not running really good for us. So we are really open, and then people come and help us at the moment. So that's also nice to see. But still, we cannot stop networking.
Mm-hmm. Good. So, any questions in the audience? I can see there are more people joining the session.
Yeah. Hi, this is Beril from Turkish team. I have a question about the social transition at this area. Actually, I know that this area has been the ex-coal area, generation and plant area. So, is there any participation from the ex-coal employees at this impact hub, on the local people that were working at the plants, or are they planning to build businesses in the area? So are there any new business lines related to this social transition? Thank you.
The question is for everyone, I guess, right? So what I also wanted to add was it has become from a coal mining industry sector-based region to also like a service economic region that was also in between, I guess. I think Andreas is much more able to answer this question, but yeah, so there are coming new things up as like the bullet points which Andreas was mentioning.
And maybe this is Kai again from the city of Essen. Also from my perspective, obviously the companies also generally still exist, and they are all very strongly looking into also changing business models, and especially regarding coal mining. The big company which is has run the coal mines, the RAG, and they are now especially developing the fields and places where these industrial heritage is situated. And they have themselves also trying to find identities for these spots. So sometimes it's about living, sometimes it's also about these kind of innovation hubs. And I think this is already quite a good change over to our next presentation, because also what is happening on the brownfield in the Krupp belt with Essen 51 is then one of the other examples how this past is becoming a future. And it is obviously not always the case that specific people who had been working there are then now changing the mindset to become entrepreneurs and so on. But overall, there is obviously a lot of expertise, especially within the big corporations, who are also trying to find a future. Maybe this is also a part of an answer for your question, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you. And also I'm looking forward to the next presentation then. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the last presentation of the second webinar is how a brownfield turns into a showcase for the smart sustainable future of cities. And just before giving the floor for the presenter, what you say, Kai, that Essen is very open to explore business models, new business models, to be honest, is advocated in the deliverable that has been submitted to the European Commission. Is something that we conclude from the University of Oxford. So I think that we agree upon the same perception. So please go ahead with the third presentation.
Yeah, thank you for your introduction. My name is Norman Saalpoiner. I'm head of or managing director from the SV Gebäudeautomation, which is a Thelen Group company. And the Thelen Group is a family-based company based in Essen. And well, as you see in beautiful pictures, or I want to introduce you the new quarter called Essen 51. And when we talked about coal mines and so on, it's a old ThyssenKrupp area, which is now grown as a work and living quarter, with more than 1,800 apartments for all generations, from students, apartments for age-appropriate living space, and this will be built in the next 10 years. The green and water landscape in this heart of the quarter is offers space and high quality of life for the people who live and work here by an existing mix of functions and various interaction possibilities. Well, through the near natural conceived open water areas will make a significant contribution to urban quality and climate balance. The location to set an example for ecological, economical and social meaningful development, and at the same time creates an economic impulses for the settlement. And green buildings are not only minimize environmental noise and the development of fine dust, but also help to reduce urban stress and enable people to relate to nature. Vertical farming and urban gardening will be a part of Essen 51 habitat. Well, developing innovative mobility concepts, creating multifunctional living and working environments are ultimately assembling all the building blocks into a flexible and individual variety of uses and managing them intelligently is the freestyle and outstanding feature of the new area Essen 51. The challenge is to put mobility and economical sustainable basis with innovative transport technologies. Public transport, cycling and walking will play a prime role in this area. Shared cars or bikes, segways, rickshaws, for example, public transports, self-driving vehicles. The advantage is the demand-oriented variety of options. Here, for example, you see a picture of maybe a autonomously driving tram or a running shuttle system connects Essen 51 with the city center of Essen, which is very close. It's just a 15-minute walk to the city center of Essen. Sharing offers consisting the electrical cars and bicycles offer fully flexibility. Public transport connect the quarter with the rest of the city. Here you see the future. The taxi drone connects Essen 51 with frequently addressed destinations as quickly as possible. The passengers order the flight via the Essen 51 app. Boards at the central air taxi stop, enters the destination through a touchscreen, and he's taken directly there. Well, we built this quarter for the next, for example, 100 years, so we have to build the infrastructure for such kind of mobility. Of course, this is hard to imagine for the moment, but yeah, we think about this solution very strict. Essen 51 will be a lively urban quarter integrating the latest trends for new ecology and sustainability, smart living and new labor, mobility and district management. Modern environmental technologies for the production of renewable energies for higher energy efficiency and energy saving are the basis for the planning of the infrastructure of building of Essen 51. Here you see the rainwater collection to new created lakes in the quarter. The aim is to develop Essen 51 as a largely self-sufficient quarter to exploit the diversity of environmental technologies with solar and wind, power plants, heating and cooling with energy from wastewater. Yeah, here in the picture you see a large heat exchanger in the sewer. Yeah. The heat exchanger is installed in the sewer over several meters. The difference in temperature is compressed. The expected output of this kind of system is 7.5 megawatts. And we think in the quarter we need 10 megawatts for running the quarter. Then we have a coal mine on the area, and the mine water technology works according to the concept of the heat pump. The differential heat from 600 meters down under the pumps is pumped to the surface. So we take the difference of the temperature in the deep ground. Technology alone is not turn houses into smart homes, we think. Instead, intelligence concepts are needed that adapt to the needs and use cases of users and residents in their respective life situation and noticeable improve of quality of life. Thanks to innovative sensor systems in smart homes and comprehensive networking, the control of technical equipment in houses and intelligent energy is and a network of them or a network management of them will become increasingly autonomous. Yeah, we built our own fiberglass network in this area to stay independent, and we will develop new business models with this net communication net. The building management software of the Thelen Group is provided by us, by the SV Gebäude Automation, and connects building technology, smart home, assisted living, and services around the houses and the residents to one management platform to make the process of the building management very effective. What we need for that, we need controllers in the houses who measuring with sensors and execute the actuators, for example, a cooling or a heating automatically. And we invent these controllers in the houses by ourselves. Yeah, modular and demand-oriented housing equipment, individually adaptable modules to increase comfort, safety, energy, and efficiency, and health will be supported by services of regional partners. You can imagine that when the people becoming older, the needs are changing, and we deliver then the technical parts that the elderly people, for example, can stay in their environment. For example, with falling sensors, they detect automatically the fall in the apartments, and then there is an event in the service center, and the person get feedback or support or help from outside. So this is a nice picture, I think, of the Area 51, and I hope I give you a picture of what we do there in this old group area, and I wait for your questions. Thank you very much.
Dankeschön. Thank you very much, Norman Poinor. Just before opening the floor for discussion, I think that while after the three presentations, the last one was focusing much more at the district level, which is exactly what Replicate project is focusing on. I don't know if you are aware of the different districts that they are constructing and developing, or at least renewing in Replicate, for instance, in Sebastián or Florence or Bristol. Are you aware of that?
Well, we know other districts in Essen, and we know what they do in the quarters. They start to invent quarter apps, for example, for service bookings for the people, and we know some other projects, for example, in Finland, but no projects in the frame of the Replicate project.
Mm-hmm. Okay, it would be worth to explore, because I think that there are some similarities in order to exchange adaptations or ways to replicate different aspects mainly in energy, but also in mobility, for instance. Please, any questions in the audience? Please introduce yourself first.
Hello, this is Iker from Fomento de San Sebastián. I see very interesting the work doing in the district. I have a question regarding the heat exchangers and the underground water. I would like to ask if are you going to create an underground lake, or is there, or how you are going to work with this project?
Thank you, Iker. Good question.
Okay, we think that the heat exchanger in the sewer is very, very realistic, because the sewer is there, and we don't have to build I don't know, windmills or something like that. It's already there, and the energy, or the difference, temperature difference of this energy in this sewer is very interesting for us. You have to imagine that this heat exchanger is about 200 or 300 meters long, and so it's very much power we can get out from that. The temperature difference from the coal mine is more hard for us to realize this, because there are some governmental restrictions about kind of such technologies. Must be very safe, and but I think we have a chance to do that too, because there is already the channel to 600 meters, and why we should not use this one.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Any other question in the audience?
Hello, this is Esra from Demir Enerji. I have a more general question, actually. I think Mr. Kaminski was talking about he mentioned some platforms that are supported by many institutions within the city. I was wondering who are the real enablers of those institutions or corporations or whatever they are. Were there any institution that was slowing the processes or not collaborating enough? Of course, I'm not asking you to complain about them, but just to give an idea about replication partners. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Esra. I think it's very convenient question in order to understand in depth what has been presented. Thank you very much.
Okay. I think we have to look on this landscape of institutions and innovation hubs in a whole. We cooperate together, we work together, and it would be hard for me to say those institutions are more successful than others, or those are faster than others. The secret behind it all is working together, and there are, as I said, there are local approaches, there are governmental, regional, private approaches, and it's really important to connect all those institutions and all those approaches, and that's what it's all about, cooperation between all those offers, and that's what we are striving for.
Thank you very much. Any other question in the audience or comment? I can see in the audience people from Florence, people from San Sebastián, from Nilüfer. Yeah. So, any other question? Seems not. So, wrap up. Thank you for the three presenters, Mr. Andreas Kaminski, Mrs. Ulrike Trenz, and Mr. Norman Schall-Poynor. I think that there were three complementary presentations. The first one, Camp Essen, revolved around entrepreneurial landscapes, ecosystem, and how to blend different cross-sectoral initiatives at the city regional level. From my perspective, at least, what I would like to highlight is how diverse was the different kind of initiatives, the different sectors, starting from finance, but even talking about the health, the healthcare, and even security. And something that I would like to underline is the fact that these initiatives, these ecosystems, they might be, or they should be transparent. Is why I did ask for clarification just after the presentation, because I didn't got the whole meaning, but then I got it. So thank you very much. So this is how the city regional level is. I mean, it's not just the city of Essen; it's broader. It's affecting this kind of sustainable and smart policy. Then the second presentation complement, I think, in a very positive way from the social innovation perspective, how entrepreneurial initiatives that they could come up from the bottom up could enrich, reinforce sustainable energies according to the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs. And the third presentation was much more in the from the technical perspective, from the smart city from scratch, as it's known. And we know that there are some elements in Replicate, some initiatives, some pilots that they've been working exactly in this kind of direction, and not just in the lighthouse cities, San Sebastián, Florence, and Bristol, but also in Lausanne. They've been working in another district that is called Metamorphose, and also Nilüfer. So I think that there is a good food for thought, and also a good kind of content to formulate replication plans for fellow follower cities. So thank you for the presenters. Thank you, Kai Lipsius, the city representative of Essen. So please share your comments, thoughts through Replicate EU hashtag, but also City-to-CityLearning hashtag. And the session is going to be in the website in Replicate project.eu/City-to-CityLearning just today. So we are accumulating different sessions. We are accumulating different content from different cities. So I think it's going to be very valuable, the whole program. So next session will be on May the 7th, and will be led by Italian Florence city. So the title is Go Fast, Go Green, and Get Connected. That's smart. This is the title that they have suggested for the webinar. And 3 different projects and initiatives are going to be presented. The first one is going to be about fast recharging system for e-taxis. Florence has been working in the pilot intensively on this element on e-taxis as an example of e-mobility initiative to deploy sustainable mobility in the city. The second presentation is going to be about e-recharging system, just broader, for different vehicles in the city. And the third one is going to be much more focused on the ICT, because they are going to present something that we saw in Florence in a study visit, that is the Smart City platform. So from our side, from the University of Oxford, thank you very much for those presenting, also coordinating, and those participating the other side of the City-to-City learning. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much as well from Essen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.